Hi, everybody. Please join me today for a conversation with Baltimore-based chef Spike Gjerde uh, as he gets ready to open a brand new bar and restaurant in Baltimore called Bar Dali. So, for many, many years, Woodbury Kitchen has been my favorite, apparently Michelle Obama's favorite. And Spike is still the only Baltimore-based chef to have won a James Beard Award. That was in 2015. He has founded and run a number of different restaurants throughout the city over the past 35 years, um, but currently has a few projects running, including Woodbury Tavern, La Jetée, which is in Harbor Point, um, and then with a new project coming to Whitehall Mill, but with this Bar Dali, the newest and the most impending. It's opening this weekend, so Spike's going to join me to talk more about what he's planning, what he's thinking about the Mount Vernon cultural corridor, the proximity of Salvador Dali and his inspiration for a Spanish-style tapas bar. Um, so I'm excited to hear from him.
Some more fun. So how
Oh,
are things going since
oh my God. We are in the thick of it. We always call this the race to the start line because there's a lot of last minute things and putting in place and as we say, and but then it all starts. It's like for the guys that are doing some of the plumbing and some of the installations and things, that's their finish line, but it's our start line. And it's always a race just to get there.
and how many times have you done this? How many times have you opened a new restaurant?
I was trying to count, I think it's like 14.
Wow. When
Really
you
a glutton for punishment.
when you start to lose count, you know that's really something.
It may be that, or it may be just the duration that we're talking about, which is 35 years.
Since the very, very first one.
It's Spike and Charlie's, Preston and Cathedral.
And so that was your very first. Did I read somewhere that your sort of formative experience in restaurants was at Patisserie Poupon?
That was the gateway drug for sure. Joseph Poupon is and always will be my chef. He has since retired, back to France with his wife Ruth, and
Wow.
gotten to visit him a couple times. But yeah, that was me walking down, you know, Baltimore Street, rather aimless in life, and saw this new pastry shop that had opened, and was intrigued and walked in, and Joseph came out, and I thought at the time his apron was covered in blood, but it was chocolate, and they asked me to bring a resume back, and I did, and they said, okay, you start tomorrow at 4 a.m.
How
And
old were you?
I was 24.
Okay. So you knew better.
I should have, but I went in, you know, head first and never looked back.
That's amazing. And then how many years later was did Spike and Charlie come about?
That would have been about 4 years later. Yeah, five.
And then from there, there have been a number of really memorable, important restaurants across Baltimore, across the region. I think about, Atlantic and, Joy America Cafe. But I think for me and for a lot of fans, Woodbury Kitchen has to be sort of a seminal work, right?
That's how I look at it. It's nice to hear you say it. That's definitely the thing where I think it happened for me. It happened in the sense, multiple senses. It happened because I found something that I truly and deeply cared about, and I was able to translate or communicate that care and that love um, for something that I was just obsessed with out into the world. And I think that's one of the things that you saw or you experienced when you came to Woodbury in that era. Um, I think the other thing is that over the time, from Woodbury's opening, we were able to kind of attract and kind of assemble a really amazing team of people who also, Woodbury was the kind of place where you needed to care about the work. It was really hard. It was demanding. It was kind of one of our little mottos was there's got to be a harder way. We'd land on something and then we'd find a way to complicate it, for reasons that were important to us. But we were always kind of, trying to figure out a better way of doing things, which also, generally result in a harder way of doing things, but worth it.
It's funny. I'm currently at work, sitting actually in an art gallery with work by two artists who both say the same thing, that whenever possible, they like to spend the most time possible, with any given piece of work, that like the intense, labor and the sort of wayfinding and the time kind of just spent immersed in the act of creation is something they actually, they're not in a rush to finish. It's exactly the opposite. And I think that sort of speaks to the artist that I think, we've talked about this, that this you're an artist. You're not doing things for external rewards. You're doing it because you want to create this beautiful thing in a
Yeah,
certain kind of way.
I will definitely ascribe to that. And I think this moment that we're in here at Bar Dali and these moments before opening when you're still kind of envisioning what the experience is going to be before you have guests in the space. Those are some of the most enjoyable for me. And it always, it always has to end, and it usually feels like it ends too soon. So I also kind of I can relate to that sentiment that you want to spend a lot. I would like to spend more time with this place before people are here this week, but I can't wait for that either. So it's kind of it's a little bit of a tension there. But I would love to talk to artists. One question I would ask them is, I would love to talk to artists about this aspect of their work. And one way I'd ask that is like, how do you know when it's done? Because I could go on here for the next 3 months and just tweak and continue to kind of fix it up and make little improvements, but eventually you have to let it go, I guess, into the world, or
And
let the world.
that's a key part of it too. I think, yeah, everything is perfect until it's made public, until you bring it out into the world, and then it has a life of its own. But well, so let's talk about Bar Dali. So for anyone who didn't know, Spike is opening in a new. It's a bar. It's a Spanish tapas restaurant. It will be in Mount Vernon in the Cultural District, and it's named for a hugely important artist that we've all heard of. So named for Salvador Dali. So tell us more about this new space that's about to open.
We are, yeah, like we just described. We're in the last couple days here of getting it ready. It's part of kind of it's basically part of a next chapter that I've kind of conceived for me and for our team after Woodbury. Woodbury, I think, is now in its 20th year, and we are, actively contemplating what comes next for Woodbury. But we've also been thinking a lot about how we take everything we've learned at Woodbury and also this continued deep commitment to sourcing locally, to sourcing thoughtfully, and to working with and supporting growers and makers who share a lot of our kind of passion for local food system and delicious food. And how do we kind of expand upon that? Because it feels like the Woodbury kind of value proposition, to be honest, it may not have the same that it used to. I felt like when we opened, there was a moment this was like the 2007, 2008, where this idea of local was kind of new to everyone in a sense, or what that could mean and why that was worth spending time on was exciting in a way that it isn't now. And so we've been thinking a lot about, like, we still care about these things. We honestly believe that a lot of the problems within our food system are as urgent, probably more urgent now than they were then. There's been so much consolidation in in the kind of the way that food is grown and made across giant corporations have become even huger, and that's I think led to a lot of problems with environmentally, I think socially, I think with the way that food work is conceived of, and a lot of times the way it happens out in the world. These are things that we just need to be addressing and engaging with, and we want to continue to do that. And
Yeah.
we want to reach more people. Sorry, we've got some Charles Street traffic here. And so the idea is to take globally beloved cuisines and experiences like the tapas experience,
Mhm.
and overlay that with the sourcing and the amazing connections that we have here in the Mid-Atlantic for sourcing great ingredients, and see what comes of it. Woodbury's always been an experience. It's always been kind of an attempt to answer a question: what's the best way to feed ourselves? And this is kind of a continued effort to do so. Here at Bar Dali, we're in this incredible space, an iconic space, I would say, in an iconic neighborhood, as you mentioned, Mount Vernon, kind of arts district. We are just, I think we're, kind of nestled in here between some of the great arts institutions in the city, with the Walters Center Stage. We have Baltimore School for the Arts up the street, and one of my old stomping grounds, the Meyerhoff, is the other way up Charles Street. So I couldn't be more excited to be kind of once again, hopefully, feeling like a participant in the city's cultural life.
So when I arrive, what do I order? What do I drink? What do I eat? What do you suggest?
Um, I mean, a cuisine like that we're kind of in, working with here, tapas, like we're kind of inspired by the great tapas bars in Madrid, and this is kind of, it's all about enjoyment. There's nothing super complex. I have to kind of try to pause that impulse as someone who spent a lot of time in the kitchen to kind of make things a little more complex than they should be. It's really about enjoyment. It's about simple pleasures in a sense. It's about some very dialed flavor combinations and textural combinations, just have stood the test of centuries. And it's also about a lot of bang for your buck. One of the things that I love about this way of eating um, is that folks in Madrid, this is an everyday or almost everyday experience for them. And so it is not meant to be wildly expensive, and it's meant to be, kind of a very much a choose your own kind of adventure experience. So to that end, I would say, our menu is just one long kind of journey from top to bottom. I would start at the top and just start picking things that sound good, and until you get to the bottom.
Like, for
That
example,
help? That's not very
give me
helpful.
some samples.
Um,
Yeah.
so we are, my brain is a little fried from being in the kitchen.
Sorry.
That's okay. What am I most excited about? We are doing the classic Spanish croqueta,
Mhm.
but with, some of our ingredients. So I think you've got to try a croqueta or two or three. We have 4 on the menu right now. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. We have oysters on the menu, which I think, it's not something you would see every day in Madrid, but here we are in Baltimore, Maryland, the shores of the Chesapeake. So why not? I would definitely hit those up. We have actually a really, really cool range of more kind of substantial, but still shareable small plates that are fish and shellfish focused.
Mhm.
From everything sourced, or almost everything sourced from the Chesapeake or the nearby Atlantic
That's great.
fisheries.
That's
So
great. I feel
really
like when I think of Spanish food, I always think about ham. I always think about like eggs and ham.
And yeah, we've got a beautiful tortilla that we're really excited. That's eggs and potatoes and some local
Mhm.
beans. We have we're really kind of, part of the Woodbury kind of method is like wrestling with questions that don't always seem so obvious. But ham is ubiquitous in tapas and in certainly the places that I've seen. And I'm not sure, I'm not so sure about like getting a lot of ham from Spain, and it's not, I don't know. So we're going to have one great ham every night, and it's going to be sourced from domestic sources.
That's great.
So we're going to start with a ham from Kentucky called Colonel Newsom's. It's one of the great ham houses in the country, and we'll be exploring other sources. I hope we can find stuff even close to home. And
Yeah.
obviously, eventually, I hope, I've already been talking to a couple growers about maybe getting some hams going, and seeing what we can do on our own.
And then is this a wine bar? Is it a cocktail bar? Are you going to have Tinto?
We have Tinto for days. We have vermouth on draft. Um, we have we have an incredible wine list that our GM Sam has and I have kind of collaborated on. We've got local draft beers. We have one draft beer from Spain, just in case that's your.
Okay.
We've got incredible sherries, um, and I can't wait to be pouring this stuff. It's just so
Yeah.
fun. It's so good.
Yeah. And then we should mention that you are occupying sort of hallowed grounds from Mount Vernon. I always think of sort of that space as, the stables and the 1990s and it's how long has it been closed? It's been closed.
I think it's been 5 or 6 years. I think
Yeah.
it was one of those kind of around COVID kind of things that happened. And I will say, very few people of a certain age that I've talked to about this don't get kind of a faraway look in their eye and say, "Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time there." It's just it is. You're exactly right. It's hallowed ground. I think for people that have been, for Baltimore social life, and we can't wait to kind of honor that tradition and bring it.
But also transforming it and sort of adding your own style and character. I mean, I think yeah, Mount Vernon is definitely in need of a few more really nice places to have a meal,
I
places to
would
have drinks.
It
Um,
is happening here, though. I mean, you
yeah,
come down to this corner on a weekend night, and it is popping off. Um, and we can't wait to be a part of that. This is a cool neighborhood and I think more stuff it'll continue to kind of grow. And we can't wait. I love being a part of a scene. It's just, I used to walk home from Spike and Charlie's. I lived in Mount Vernon. Spike and Charlie's was up Preston Cathedral, and this was my little walk home. As just starting out, just figuring things out, exhausted. And this little corridor here was always buzzing. And
mhm,
and I always wanted to be a part of something on Charles Street, and here we are.
yeah. Yeah, and with the closures of like the Hippo and
Yeah.
Central Station and some of those sort of classic gay bars. I don't know. The past couple years for me, it's felt a little quiet. So I'm excited to see new things starting to come back. And I am also curious about the name. So how did you come to decide to name this place after? And so it's Bar Dali. So it's
So there was a point a few years ago where um, we were working on a project in DC, which became a Rake's Progress. And I was, my partner at the time, Corey Paloka, who's now involved with the hotel company that we are partnered with here. Long story, but maybe we can get to that. We were working on a name for this restaurant that we were going to put in this hotel in DC, and just kind of riffing on it. And we'd spent a lot of time driving back and forth, and we'd call that our windshield time, where we could just talk about stuff because we were inevitably stuck in traffic. And
mhm.
uh, and I landed on the name A Rake's Progress. It was, it's a Hogarth work. And ever since then, I thought everything should be named somehow. It should be inspired by or connected to art. And
Mhm.
there's something that is just, I can't really define it, but I locked into that. And so we
Mhm.
named the coffee shop. My favorite name of all time is The Cup We All Race For, which is a John Frederick Pito, work from the turn of the early 1900s.
Mhm.
And and ever since then, I look to art, you know, for inspiration, but also for like how are we going to explain to the world what this place is? And most recently, it's La Jetée, um,
Mhm.
on the harbor. Fantastic, experimental film by Chris Marker. Not a lot to do with what we're doing in the restaurant. It's a little dark and dystopian, but
Mhm.
the name just is like is solid gold, as they say. And
Yeah.
so, here we're talking about great Spanish traditions, and having, if there was anybody that knew how to have fun with, imagery and just kind of reality, or surreality, it's Dali. So it was an instant, it just clicked. and so here we are.
Yeah,
And
it would be
we
really
were
fun.
talking about the great surrealism scene that's here in Baltimore, which I was not even. I'm so interested
Yeah.
in more of that.
Yeah, it would be really cool to collaborate with or exhibit work by there are actually a number of visual artists in Baltimore who explore, different aspects of surrealism in the
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe I shouldn't
yeah.
call it a surrealism scene, but the design too is also we are putting our mark in the space, and we're working with the Ash team, the Ash
Mhm.
creative team, and it's going to be it is a beautiful space, a subterranean kind of a few steps down from the street. It's going to be amazing though. It's going to be very art filled, but dark and mysterious, and there are kind of nooks and crannies in this place that are really fun little places to kind of get lost.
Yeah, no, I think lighting is going to go a long way for you, and yeah, the Ash Group. I mean, they just design really memorable spaces, and they have great taste. So I think it's a good fit to align yourself with.
This building is owned by the Hotel Ulysses folks, the Ash folks, and
Mhm.
so we're kind of doing this in collaboration with them.
And do you see it as sort of an events venue where you're going to be hosting special events and parties, or more just kind of open to the public and
It's both. We have an
okay.
incredible event space. We can seat 60 up. That's actually where I'm sitting right now. And then the Bar Dali proper is downstairs. The bar open every day, which is fun. Already thinking about all the industry folks we want to have over because Baltimore does, like you mentioned earlier, it gets a little quiet. In this case, like Sunday, Monday, kind of when a lot of us in the restaurant world are off, there's not a lot of choices. So we hope this could be a place that people could add to their list.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I feel like it's always on Sunday or a Monday when someone from out of town is like coming and let's go to dinner, and there's literally like three spaces that are open
Yes. Yeah.
that I want to take them to. So I think making yourself available in that way, I think is really really smart. And then just sort of working within that Mount Vernon cultural corridor, and hopefully those the museums and the theaters and all of those sort of cultural landmarks around you. Hopefully there is a way to kind of bring them in and work together. And I was going to say also that you got a really nice shout out from Amy Sherrill when we were all at the BMA celebrating her. And I do remember when she worked at Woodbury. Um, but I think it's interesting. I mean, you've sort of been this source of employment for so many different artists. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was a magical moment when she referenced her time, at Woodbury, which and that whole weekend was just incredible. And the fact that she brought that her work to Baltimore in that way continues to be kind of inspiring us. And
and
it's
then you
great.
hosted the after party, which was
And
really
we
great.
hosted the after party right here. And
Yeah.
what a great way to kick it off. Um, so yeah, it's a very propitious and art adjacent start to our time here at Bar Dali.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, as a visual artist, she's someone who I think she often references literature and poetry in her titles. So I think, as artists, we're all kind of like borrowing from each other and different genres. But maybe your next bar or restaurant will be named after an Amy Sherrill painting. Who knows?
Wow. Brilliant thing. Yeah, never say never.
You never know. So, congratulations on this new launch. So, when is it officially open to the public?
We we are in the last throes of getting things together, and
Mhm.
we have every reason to believe we'll be open this weekend,
Okay.
uh, the 27th, 28th. A couple of things could kind of maybe not fall our way, which might change that. But we were thinking this weekend, kind of a quiet opening, not a big deal, to get the wheels turning,
Yeah, just
and
to,
then every day thereafter.
wow. Well, I'm excited to see what happens, and I think many of us in Baltimore are, are willing to follow you and follow your food wherever it leads us.
Well,
And this is why we live in this city. This is what this is what makes the moments unique and memorable and special. So hopefully,
thanks.
this.
Providing that for this city is all I could ever ask for. I've spent it turns out I've spent my whole life here. I went away to school, came back. Like I said, never thought about leaving, never thought about another path for myself.
Yeah.
Always wanted to be doing this, and I couldn't be more pleased. And I can't wait to welcome Baltimore to Bar Dali.
No, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Can't
And
wait to see you here.
not just because I love the tortilla, but yeah, I'm excited. So thank you for giving us a little sneak
Of
peek
course, thanks for chatting.
and what you're where you're headed next. And I look forward to, becoming a regular.
But I'll see you here.
Yeah. Yeah.